Hi there. Just we're doing our AJH Daily Defensives. This is going to be AJH Daily Defensives Content, November 7th, 2019. I'm just figuring out what I'm doing here. Basically, I just went through some of the applications I've done. Some of the events taking place within my life. Some of the write-downs I wrote in my diary entry. And as well. Anyway, let's carry on. So the last time I did one of these, I think it was the 29th, about 9 days ago. What happened since then? So, 29th. Changes. So why do resolute, strong thoughts, become a racist, and deliberate action? Quote, despite everything I believe that people are for the good. Which, speaking of which, this past week, for me on my end, there was this thing in regards to certain kind of shout-outs to kind of concentration camp stuff. That's the kind of stuff that is difficult to describe, to explain. So there's a certain culture that exists around us at times for some of us, and it has to do with immorality culture. Cultures that those are kinds of immorality, a certain kind of fashion. How are we to accept that exists? What would certain physical earth-based nations do if their earth-based nation was more immoral? I think it depends on the context, but imagine that within certain societies that have a certain there's certain things become normal, things become play, where it becomes normal. Beating people up every day is a little certain countries. You see violence and hatred, worship. Imagine there is entire faiths in regards to those concepts. Other ones too, where you look at it and imagine that there is ones that have similar culture in certain context pertaining to what we understand our culture to be, where it's just more violent, where it's more upsetting, and where it exists in a certain context, behind the scenes, in a certain manner pertaining to some of them. You're like, okay, well, how does that work? How does that even happen? What if that doesn't exist? I would say that, what if it does? I think that is the better question to a certain extent. That sort of thing where I look at violence as a culture and I know that there will be spiritual influences regardless. When we see fist fights, when we see anger firing up, as an empath, there's spiritual implantation of emotions. I remember what it was before I became psychic. After, I've noticed that back then in my memories that there was still implantation happening. Spoken in a certain language to be my emotions. Some of it might be. There is a portion of certain spirits implant certain emotions. Some of it, if not all of it, to be our own. So some of it might be other dimension of self-facilitation. Hello, yeah, they can hear me. I think. Oh no. Let's see if it will. Hi there. I think that's a little bit better. Much better. So yeah, I might start over again just in case. AJH Daily Defensives. This is one of those content that I talk about defense, where I speak about some of the things, advocations, informational creation that I've done. I've noticed as a physical that we have power within the physical and other dimensional, that we can create information, we can create content. Our content that we create, movies, song, a bunch of other ones, that there is potentially spiritual viewership in which ranges from thousands to millions to billions to potentially more so. In fact, I think it is more so in a certain context, in a certain manner. So that sort of thing that says that what if I was sort of looking that there is certain kind of immorality culture that exists, that sort of understanding and knowing that that sort of stuff potentially takes place. My conversations in regards to my experiences have let me know that that is the case in multiple varying degrees. One of the things, though, regarding, I think that I noted in a certain context, I and others from its guides are advocating for what Women's Spirit Guides chose for us to advocate in regards to smart communication, etc. Women's Guides, Women's Guides, is that when we do advocations and other things, is that there's certain kind of spirits that are watching and considering there's not too many physicals on this physical planet Earth that do advocations within the physical live, that can carry power and weight. Imagine if I just say, mind others from Spirit Guides are advocating for the concept of truth to be protected, the way Main Spirit Guides indicated. Imagine that there wasn't a physical on this physical planet Earth who worded it in that fashion. That's fairly a big deal. Why is it a big deal? Because there is such a thing as concept faith. You think about truth. That is worshipped in probably, I think that there is billions, trillions, and more so in spirits that worship truth as a faith. And not just as a faith, but as other things too. So that right there, that carries weight. That carries power. And that's one of those things that I noticed, that when you do advocations and things of that nature, that sometimes there is a certain kind of spotlight, a certain kind of fame level for some of it, specifically because if there's not too many doing that sort of thing. I mean, if it was one of those things where you'd see it across the planet, where the physicals were doing it all damn day, it'd be less so. But we're in a certain time frame where it's where that sort of thing is not necessarily as common as a physical human on physical Earth based. But I was sort of taking a look at that violence exists. I looked at violence within human physical nature. And I think that there is a large portion that is spiritually motivated, spiritually influenced, spiritually manipulated in multiple different kinds of ways. And someone would be like, okay, so why is that taking place? It's like, why would that take place? Imagine that immorality culture emerged. Imagine that in a certain time frame, there's a certain war, a certain battle, or a certain conflict that took place, where in certain dimensional existences, it became normal, where rape became normal, where violence became worshipped, where there's a bunch of different things like that, negative concepts being worshipped and adulated, negative well, there is certain kinds of things that would emerge in a certain kind of manner where you take a look at it and it looks, for some of it, it might look similar to our own culture, just more brimstone, more violence, more, imagine social media likes, or, with a bunch of different things on it. Not just the like button, not just the dislike button, not just, the hearts, but imagine that there's negative stuff, that sort of thing. But in ways where imagine that the top, social media sites are that sort of thing. So it's one of those things I've talked about on content videos. It's one of those things I've spoken about. And there is safeguards in place spiritually to protect in regards to letting know of that sort of thing in multiple kinds of regards. And we should be able to talk about this because we need to understand if that's taking place behind the scenes to a certain extent. I mean, isn't it an important issue to address if it's taking place? Is it not something to let know of, or is it just something to ignore? Is it something we say, oh, well, it doesn't exist, and just try and walk away from it? I don't know. And I think that I think certain kind have tried in a certain manner to let know of it. I think a certain kind have tried in a certain manner to protect and defend. I think that there's multiple ways of defending, and I think that within the context of those ways, that there is certain systems where you can let know, where there's different kinds of ways of speaking about it. And I think that they have done a good job in regards to protecting, that sort of thing that says positivity and things of that nature, and utilization regarding to protect oneself, specifically pertaining to ripple effect. I think it is done fairly decent to a certain degree. I have had problematics on my end in certain instances, but maybe that's one in the few. So I started noticing that we take a look at emotions. I noticed that implantation of emotions, implantation of energies, channeling. That sometimes when you get in a fight with someone, your emotions are flaring.
and maybe you feel like, getting into a fist fight or something like that, or verbal, sparring and things of that nature. All that stuff I looked at as a psychic medium, and I knew instantly, without too much delving as upon my own experiences, that that is potentially spiritually invoked in a certain manner if emotions are implanted. And I looked at it before I was psychic in a certain context, and I sort of looked towards that sort of thing that said, um, that just because I didn't feel that it was being implanted didn't necessarily mean that it wasn't. Because after I became psychic and more empathic, I started noticing implantation of energies, and would note that it is similar to as before, just that the way I felt as my own emotions. And I would know that I'd start to note the difference between creating emotions and feeling emotions. A really big one, which also led towards that sort of thing. It says, okay, so a lot of us are feeling emotions, but for some of us, we're not fully creating them. And yeah, there's a portion of those emotions that we feel at times in which are um, partly our own in a certain context. But if that is the case, that there is, if that is the truth, that there is spiritual influencing happening in regards to us, then why is it happening in regards to the negative? So that question right there is a big one. That's one of those keys that says, okay, yeah. I mean, if we do say, if we do see the truth in that, emotions and energies and things of that nature, um, if there is spiritual involvement, then what does that tell us? Because there is a violence that takes place on this physical planet Earth. There is warfare that took place. There is flared up emotions in regards to when you get into a fist fight. Not just flared up emotions, but certain kind of energies. Um, I've noticed a psychic, certain actions being influenced from the spirit around, like the feeling to punch someone. That energy that's placed on our hand area and arm area to take a swing, is not necessarily just our own self creating those energies, but we're also feeling those energies. So there's multiple reasonings, one of which happens to do with a certain overlap issue, a certain natural, maybe. Hey, I don't know, some of it, but I think some of it is something else. So I mean, with that being said, with that understanding, with knowing that sort of stuff takes place, um, then I sort of realized through my experiences, and you look through those past videos, and it's there. There's let knows regarding in multiple different ways. Oh, okay, fine. That sort of culture exists, and I'm not trying to upset. I think that positivity is decent. I think that let knows in regards to how we've been defended in multiple kinds of fashion is decent, specifically in regards to defensive videos. To a certain degree, given context, given consent. One of the things regarding is, yeah. So I noticed certain things in regards to concentration camps this past week. I noticed a certain kind of thing in regards to it, and to explain that might be the small of it, that might be a punishment alternative, that might be a facilitation from some to be able to stave greater attack. How is it that we reconcile if that's the case? I mean, some people look at it and say, no, that can't be the case. I mean, this is the thing of this. It's a certain culture. And I know that what the spiritualist communities are saying on this physical earth based is the truth pertaining to that, love, care, compassion, kindness is the way, and is, where a large percentage of physical earth based humans and others, I mean, spirit guides indicated, are going to go. And I think even within certain subsections of that culture, that there is potentially that sort of thing that says, some play violent video games, but in advanced form, holodeck programs. You think about that, and then you think, oh, holodeck programs. Now imagine that when you fire a gun, it looks fairly realistic, and you could see that a certain societal leadership's like, yeah, exactly, and you could see why it would be. But if you're safe about it, if you're okay, and the difference, and that sort of thing, but other psychological checks as well too. Um, there shouldn't be. I don't think there's as much of a problem as some would insinuate. I think that within certain kind of culture, I think some tried to label that sort of direction as something that it's not. As I think it's a good I think it's a good alternative to certain kind of immorality and things of that nature. And in regards to some who promote immorality, it might be something they would choose rather than the current lifestyle. But if not given those opportunities, what would it be? Because I think some are given those opportunities daily. Because that's the way we said it. Yeah, and I think within the context of trying to facilitate those kind of brimstone experiences, imagine that something's set up in a certain kind of game world where you don't experience a certain kind of pain, um, but you still experience certain things. Imagine going in, living a life, and maybe for some of it you can pause the game. You can pause the game whenever you want, and then go back to it as long as you fill up the quota, and we're going to certain time frame. For some, not. You got to fill it up eventually, though. Yeah, all right. Well, so it's that sort of thing that says, what kind of content experiences are some doing, and you can see how some would come up with that sort of idea to create a certain kind of facilitation that those who promote immorality would dig, and some who are leaders in regards to that sort of thing say, hey, you create a content experience in regards to certain kind of concentration camps where it's not necessarily as the real thing, but still is real in a certain context. Maybe you don't experience a certain kind of pain in regards to it. Maybe you don't experience certain kind of stimuli pertaining, but it is still an alternative. And that creation and those experiences potentially saving certain kind in a certain manner is a decent. It's something that exists. Now, the utilization of such a thing is something that really needs to be taken a look at, because we got to make sure that are those experiences similar to what happened during World War II. If it is, then some people kind of cock their head and say, hey, we fought for freedom for that, to not have to experience that stuff ever again. Yeah. Because the old ones are smart, man, and kind and caring for a lot of them. Well, that's how I felt about it. All right, okay, correct. Because there's some who feel like maybe they don't understand for some of them, but some of them do. And they did come from a certain kind of generation. When I think about old people on this physical planet Earth, I think of Alex. Well, I think of some of the vets, but also certain kind of generations. 30s, 40s, 50s. I gotta slow my roll. Slow your roll. That was correct. It's getting on. All right, fine. Yeah, it is. That was correct. So that sort of stuff that when, specifically those time frames where there was a certain genteel in regards to female and a certain kind of respect, women, a certain kind of care. I think that it's sometimes mistaken. All right, then fine. Mistaken for something else. Okay, fine. And maybe it has nothing to do with it, and that's just my impression on it. It's not meant to upset or offend. But within the context of that sort of stuff, yeah, definitely making sure that things are kosher. But specifically one of them, making sure that there is outlets, being created and things of that nature. Alternatives to a certain degree, because that was what you did. And I think that context really does matter. Society really does matter. If there's a certain thing that in a certain society, be like, okay, well, that would be the difference. Understanding that would be the difference, and understanding there's a difference. All right, well, understanding there's a difference. So yeah, that's some of it. And yeah, I mean, upon that knowledge that there are those in the original setting that hold a large portion of power that could instantly save most of all that is instantaneously. That can be a bit upsetting, looking at some of the alternatives that a lot of people have to come up with, and for some in which aren't allowed in certain areas of interaction. That sort of thing can be a little upsetting. Is it more upsetting than watching a loved one get attacked, harmed, and raped? I don't know. I don't know if it is. Well, all right, then fine. And I'm advocating for saving in regards to those that men just need the women just need. Simple as that. All right, then fine. That's some of the stuff I talk about daily. The immorality alternatives, and also the idea, faith, logic, that there are those in the original setting that hold a large amount of power that can save most of all that is instantaneously. And, and again, we looked at that one of these things this week, and that said that if everyone's working together on the top, everyone's working together on the bottom, everyone's working together in the middle, and, and between them, everybody's working together, on those points, and then working outward on it, moving down and moving upwards. Again, you think about karmic structure, that's one of them. You think about leadership, that's another. You think about power, and that's one of the biggest ones. That's probably the one that's being talked about to a certain degree. Power is different. You don't know why. No, that would be why, though. Well, what is this madness? All right, what is this madness is correct, if that's it. But I don't, that's the thing of it. Oh, okay, fine. Well, like I said, what is this madness? Okay, correct. How did we ever get ourselves into such a mess? How could you ever have had that on the table? Good time. Oh, all right, then fine. If it's me, I'm gonna go back to the past and whoop my ass. That's how I'm freaking if it's me, you're gonna get beat up here. That's how I feel. That is how I feel in regards to myself. That is the true. All right, then fine. You know why? Well, that's how I feel about it. Well, alrighty then. Because that's how I felt about it. Yeah, well, I probably get a beat down, but this is the case. Well, all right, I never said I'd win. Well, all right, then fine. That is correct, because your guy looked at you. Sorry, it's not meant that way. I mean, I'd probably lose, but that's how I freaking feel. It wasn't meant as a literal to put my ass in the past. It's meant like, what are you doing? If that was the case of it, that's how I feel. All right, then fine. In this instance, yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about it. Because I don't like you saying that. Mm-hmm. All right, okay, correct. You don't know why, because you don't. Well, I don't know if I blame myself on that. I don't know if I blame the good guys either in regards to a lack of, well, anyway. Anyway, the changes. All righty. Yeah, there's been changes in this process. Past week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, positivity invoked. Been trying to stay away from certain kind of argumentives. Been trying to stay away from certain kind of potshot comments. Even in regards to myself, actually. So, bit of a blunder here in the past 5-10 minutes. But I'm not perfect. There's moments here the past couple days, the 5th and the 4th, where I felt like I finally got. That's what I'm hoping it to be. In a certain context for what's acceptable. There was actually a couple times 2-3 weeks ago that was fairly decent too, from the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. Those 5 days, at least early week, was really good. Teamwork, understanding that you can work together with certain spirits where maybe you don't necessarily agree with certain things with, but you do agree with other things where you can work on that and say, hey, at least we did that. That sort of stuff I really do believe in. I really do care about it. And it was almost like it was lost before that week. Something happened where someone really tried to let know of it spiritually, different energy placements, things of that nature, where I felt like that was the case. A couple weeks before was a totally different story. First week of October was just this labelment, certain kind of labelment where certain spirits were trying to label me as the bad person. And I'm just like, listen, it looks ludicrous on my end. It looks complete wrong, and that's what it is. And of course, when the utilization of other dimensional selves, and those you're supposed to consider other dimensional selves, all personal, that sort of stuff. Hey, when we get to that mediation spot where it's like, yeah, you have to say that, this person's your other dimensional self. It's like, I wonder why it is that I dislike going some of those routes. to a certain degree. And am I just going to cave in? Have I already caved in regards to that sort of stuff that says, hey, I'm just supposed to consider because it's a good deal on the table? None of that sort of stuff that hits me over the head with it. Is that not going to get me harmed? Or no? Or am I going to be safe on that? Because it is one of those things. It is one of those things. That is. Yeah, we don't want to talk about that right now. Well, some of us do. Well, I maybe do. Others do. I don't know. I don't want to speak on it, but others can. They do what they do. Those that makes doesn't need to do. All right, fine. Well, that is correct. Something took place with my father. I had these impressions at times. There was this thing where I felt like this hair impression, this alienated impression. Not ruffled feathers per se, but like I just kind of an alienated interaction at times where he felt awkward, in a certain context when we tried to interact. And some of it was superficial. It was one like just a head area energy that I felt at times. And right atop the head area, right atop here, right here. I feel the impressions at times. And it had to do with, I think, the physical form, not physical form, but the form itself. Something to do with the form itself, where I felt a certain kind of thing in regards to it. And something had changed 3 days ago. Something that started going away. I felt the impression again, and it just started dissipating and changing to something else. So I don't know what that fully entailed. I think maybe something changed spiritually behind the scenes. Something was fixed because there is things like that. You'll have a block. You'll have a like. You'll have a dislike. You look at all different things. Your perception. Your energies. Your past lives is, I feel, a part of some of that. And I know there's some who link a story together and that sort of thing, says, that's why it exists. I understand that takes place and that sort of thing. They're working there, trying to work those angles. Hey, story, is that it? I apologize. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be upsetting about it, but they never came at me like that before. And I was just like, well, I don't, I should probably say something on it. Anyway. All right. Whoa. See, that's the oh man, ye old 2017. That's how I feel. Just like some certain spirit influencing when I respond. I'm moving my mouse pointer, and it looks like, I'm like, oh well, don't worry about it. And it looked like I patted Story on the head with my mouse pointer, and that is not what I'm going for. Good sir. All right, yeah. I try to stay away from upsetting concepts. I slipped. There's been a couple times. Justice, war, truth. Couple things here and there. Everything on my end. This is the case list. Those three concepts, and there is concepts. They're a big thing. They're a big faith. They're one of those things where things. Well, you imagine that there's those hardcore concept people where they're like, all right, like you look at a bubble and it has everything and anything to do with war, and that to them is the concept of war. All right, so that's one of them, but some tone it down a bit. They're like, no, we have to include this. I mean, we know this is the case of this. We could just well, that's it. Imagine it's like, okay, well, in certain places where certain spirit emerge, it's like, all right, let's war. Banners of war. There's literally worship in regards to war. There's a bunch of different things. There's banners of war, nations of war. There's species and genders of war. It's real true. How cool is that? all right. But this says, say there's other ones too in regard to peace. There's species of peace, genders of peace. Yeah. There we got to talk them out of it. For freak's sake. No, that would be why. So, I mean, one of the things I looked at comedy, and within my process, I looked at comedy, and it just looked like comedy was being crapped on at times. It's like you make a joke, and it's like, some spirit labels it as a bad thing, and then all of a sudden, you can't make a joke. And there were certain moments like that. And there's a lot of positive interactions. There's a lot of joking. There's a lot of comedy. But then there's also moments where it's been that sort of thing where it feels like, there's a bit of a disparity in regards to being able to be comedic. Misunderstandings, lack of communication, a bunch of different things, and utilization in regards to comedy as well. And I looked at them like, I'm like, comedy. And I looked at argumentatives. I'm like, argumentatives. Freaking heck, God forbid we have an argumentative here without, a bunch of different things taking place. or people getting blamed or saying it's argumentatives, whatever that had been, multiple things. And it's just that sort of thing where it's like I get into an argument with a certain spirit, and then all right there's some soothsayers like, no, you don't want to be arguing with the. But I hear you greatly. When you see the context, yeah, it is. There's always that sort of thing with the lead up to it, and some of them know, some of them do. I like soothsayers. It's the real truth. But one of those things that sort of happened, and I know this one's guys are advocating for means for guys indicating in regards to smart applications that runs guides if need be, the winners guys needed. Again, some of my advocations are if need be, regardless of whether I let know of it or not. And it's not the first time I think that I've let know of it on a content experience in the ways it means guys need. But that sort of thing where then I looked at war, and I'm like, it was one of those moments where we had been going fairly well with a certain kind of peaceful tone the past 2-3 days. At least the past 2 days, 4th and the 5th. And then there was that sort of moment where I was like, war, why the hell is war here? Like, what the, this was the thing, because I looked at this red impression, and at times it's reminded me of comedy. At times it's reminded me of argumentatives. And at times it's reminded me of war. And you'll have perceptions like that when you think about certain concepts. Peace reminds people at times of blue, sometimes yellow for others. There's things like that. You can think of it in regards to multiple different things. Beliefs, faith, you can think of it in regards to content experiences. There's certain impressions. Movie posters are a big one in regards to certain movies. Think about the classic Blade Runner. And that's one of the ones I think of now because I had been looking at a certain kind of picture in regards to it. But beforehand, it might have been, and shame on me, well, no, it would have been that scene. There was a scene at the beginning where they were sitting there, like with there was like smoke, and they were asking the dude questions, trying to find out if he was an android or not. I think to a certain degree, that was one of those scenes that kind of reminded me of. I'm like, whoa, this Blade Runner. This is you mark it down anyway, and that was one of them. And then I sort of got a little upset. I'm just like, why the hell are you here? And then I thought of it. I'm like, oh yeah, wait a second, peace. I thought of peace, and it was just this idea that certain spirit at times have feng shuied peace and labeled certain spirits of war to be bad when they're not. It is a way of life. You think about Klingons from Star Trek. Boom, there you go. This is the case of this, people. The content experiences help, and I need to be able to reference at times, and that's one of them. It's not the only one, but it's one of the ones that comes to mind. There's certain kind of species and gender that are more brimstone than what we know of. There is things like that, and I know some are just like, it's too much. The kind that they try to insinuate, though, the kind that they insinuate is at times for me and others from Inspire Guides, and I'm not, this savant at times. Not at times. Not at times. I'm not. But but that is that dropping energy there is supposed to go where Inspire Guides indicated in regards to this market application, etc. Runs, guys. All right, fine. But I backtracked a bit. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And of course, it's one of those moments where, was it cut off? And how long did it go on for that people were saying that it was that, and how many things happened because of it? So, a communicational misunderstanding, and not necessarily be blamed on communication teams, because this is it. You got a communication teams, they have their weapons, but then some, large spirit comes in and just says, this is what's going to happen. And what, are they supposed to lose their lives for that? No, I mean, this is the case. It's not a wrong answer, is it? There's someone up there that say that's not a wrong answer. That it's not. Someone points a gun at you. That's what happens. And you don't want to screw with communication too, because there is. That is just one of those concepts that you don't want to do it. Communication is one of them on my side. I have said on that. This is one of them. Yes, here and there. You know what? I've cussed them out in a certain manner to be true. The video game one's crap. Oh, come on. That was all feng shui. That is correct. That was correct. That's how I feel about that one. That's some high feng shui. All right, yeah, that is correct. That's what he said. There's another one where they tried to get me a certain conflict going with video games, gaming. And I was just, I got upset at the insinuations, and I prompted what Inspire Guides indicated. But again, if it's that sort of thing they're showing something that's not necessarily taking place, and not necessarily what I prompted, then certain spirits taking it out of context. And when I have done a lot of things in regards to ripple effect, thousands of advocations, I don't know what people want from me at times. And it's like, and then, the bad guy for advocational work, I don't know. I don't know if it's that. That is damn good. That was what you said. This is what you said here. I go with what Meansburg Guide's indicating the original life. Well, that would be correct. You don't know why, because you're one of those. That's the case. And at what point does something not work out? Yeah, I'm one of those people that believes in thousands of chances. But where's the, in regards to some, is there a certain thing where it's like, okay, that's where move them out of here? I'm not trying to be upsetting or angering. I'm just, at a certain point in time in regards to certain things that take place. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Well, yeah, communication's been there where I think I can put that in the mix with war, truth. It's just that one thing. And if it wasn't for all the heck that I caused in regards to some of the truth saying and going to truth, it might not have been as bad. But together, I don't know. I think it's gonna pale. I think it's gonna pale. Well, all right, you think? I still think it pales. Well, that is, and again, there is that thing, and I know my higher self's looking at me. It's like, yeah, these are your bonehead moves. You damn well bonehead. Well, that's pretty much it. And I don't know. I mean, that is, it adds up. And of course, then when we look at it from another culture perspective, where it's not necessarily just argumentative, but where people beat the shit out of each other. Why can't we just fight? What is wrong with fighting? I mean, this is the case of this. It's the real true. Our culture, it exists. And of course, we get into one fight and that's what it's supposed to be? No. So it's a similar line in regards to certain argumentatives. It's a similar line in regards to, in regards to venting. Yeah. Venting's been another one. Potshaw comments. It's like, Alex, you do not want to be saying that. I'm only saying it to those that mean Spirit Guides indicated, where is God's indicated. And that's the true. It's supposed to, it's a vent. You do it sometimes in mid-conversation. I get angry and upset at times. I don't know what to tell you. It's a certain vent, and that's the case. There's a difference, isn't there? Now, if you're to say that you were going to sit there and cuss me out and call me a bonehead, and does that mean that I'm supposed to attack and harm your own in such a way? And then the response is, that it makes no sense. It doesn't. It's not fair. There's a difference. In our culture, though, but even yes, I see that within certain culture that's the clout, and that's the difficulty. There's always been that line: the good guy, the bad guy, and what they believe in. And when you get right down to it, there is some baselines. A certain dimensional existence always existing, a certain kind of action being understandably legal. And that's always it, and that's the brilliance of it. All right. You could see how that would emerge. Talk shows with certain kind, specifically in regards to play-by-play, in regards to life narration. That's a big one. You think about a story. Story's a big one. Story's huge. It's got to be one of the biggest. It has to be. See, that sort of thing existing, and it's difficult to be in certain thresholds where there is at times certain kind of battling in regards to certain story, because at times I know some don't want to say it that, and there is, and that's why you look at that culture, and there they are, they're just like cool sunglasses, and in a different kind of way, maybe a sports shades kind of thing, there, yeah, all right. So then they say that they, feng shui peace in a certain manner so that some can live their lives, so that you can be within certain thresholds. And I happen to be one of those people who passed a certain kind of line that some just did not like. But it was beforehand. I think I'm fairly certain. And if it wasn't, then there is a surest there that then all hail trappers. I mean, Jesus, I wonder why. If that's the case. Trappers, a certain kind of spiritual trapper that exists. So there's one of the disparities. There's a certain kind of thing that exists where, a certain process is labeled something to be attacked in a certain manner, maybe you're not given a certain variable, like what kind of cards he has and that sort of thing. But it's also a punishment alternative, and that's a big one. It's like, yeah, well, instead of going to this hellfire pit of whatever the heck it is, alternative, there you go. All right. And yeah, so trappers, doing their thing in regards to trapping certain kind in regards to certain processes. And I got angry. They're one of them. Yeah, sure, trappers are there. Yes, but I haven't gone to concept of trappers. That's the difference. All right, that is the difference. That was the difference. And you don't know why, because that's what they're trying to say here. Well, you're wrong. You're wrong here. Okay, correct. In the context of me going to the concept of trapping, that is not the truth. All right. Well, that would be why. Behind the scenes, spiritually, it is. Well, that's another story in a certain context. I mean, if you're going to treat me like that, hey, yeah, that is unfair. I mean, that is the truth. That has got to be one of my hypocrisies. Got to be, right? That is. You look at it from a certain perspective. And again, it's that sort of thing where another dimensional in a more brimstone culture, am I even still there? I mean, this is the case of this. And that's what you'd say. You'd say, you need to release him. Oh, that's already done, I think. All right, okay, yeah, all right, you thought that, eh? Fairly certainly got situated. Well, okay. And of course, within the context of all these, bleeding heart activists and all that sort of stuff, you have real Cold War taking place. And they're, sometimes in the mix. You see a certain kind, trying to save certain people, and you see two nations fighting. Imagine, on this physical planet Earth, imagine two nations start going to war, and in the middle of it, you have this peace march about, no more war. Fighting breaks out between two sides. Imagine it can work so quickly that spirits can go into a city where quick times. I mean, physically to spirit. And I'm not saying there isn't safeguards, because there is, right? For freak's sake. There's some people who look at that. And that was always it. That was the case list. That's how we feel. It looks to be a certain kind. And then again, you look towards that. But, there's also the opposite. On this one, there is, because you look towards peace, to a certain... I don't usually go to the concept of peace, though. This is not how I do it. Yeah, this is the thing of it. See, it's not the concept of peace I go to. This is actually, I go to a certain kind of culture. I mean, all right, okay. And they're not the only ones who do it. Yeah, because you said it before. Now, they're in the mix on that. Yes. Yes, they're in the mix on that, but also by way of utilization regarding certain things. Maybe that's even worse for either. I don't know. All right, fine then. And it's been one of those things where, this certain culture, Feng Shui is a certain kind of thing where people get along. And I have felt that feeling of, there's, some disparities taking place. A certain physical across Earth is getting attacked spiritually in a certain manner, and there's a certain kind of peace that gets feng shuied on a larger percentage of physical Earth-based humans. And there's this, should I stay or should I go now kind of feeling. And, for a lot of people, are kind of like, well, let's breathe for 5 minutes here. Just 5 minutes, For some of them, that's that. I might go that way. I don't know. It depends on what it is. I mean, this is the case. Is I get pulled out of a certain kind of situation where there's certain kind of torture or things like that, or attack or harm. And this is the case. I might not be that. I might not be getting tortured at all behind the scenes. But there has been insinuations at times where there's certain moments where other dimensional selves got attacked. So, I feel like letting know. Well, not letting know, but it's a conversation. It's a let know. It's I don't know what you call that. All right, fine. So that sort of thing where, get put in a decent spot. He's like, but this is the catch, and there's the good guy, and this is the thing of it. Or the other guy who's like, listen, we need help over here. And it's like, you see it, and you're like, yeah, I know. 5 minutes. And it's more than 5 minutes for some. Some do not want to experience any more pain, suffering, warfare, anything like that. Watching their friends, their teammates, their brothers, in spirit, be put in those situations anymore. So you can see why some just want to continue to be able to live peacefully. And these guys, you don't know why it is. This is what they said. They tried to attack you here, and you did not hear any of it. And this is the kind of stuff that can happen, because this is why. Because these guys are right. This is what they said. These guys are right here. You don't know why. That's what you'd say. Well, but that was the case. That's how Alex felt about it. You know what? No, I hear them. That's what's great about this. It's like that Irish scene from anyway. All right, well, that would be why. Because that was what, that's it. That was what Alex said. It was the same thing, isn't it? Similar, to be true. Well, okay. Except that there's those. Oh, they scare me. Well, we just, see, you do. You're like that. I am at times. I wasn't joking either, for some of it. That's how I feel. Now, I don't mean to be upsetting or harmful. I'm sorry. I don't know if I still feel that way. There's just moments where I don't want to be attacked anymore. I don't want to be hurt anymore. And I don't want others to be hurt anymore either. I know some people just say leave them behind for some. Yeah. But some of it's just because I look at it from a certain perspective, and some people don't look at it that way. Some people look at it in regards to their own, and I do in a certain context, but there's more to it than that. And with all the tethering and crazy stuff that's happened spiritually behind the scenes in regards to some of this stuff, it can be difficult to move on, and it shouldn't be at all. It should not be at all. Because, we take a look at the support and the amount of gravitas in regards to veterans. And I don't believe in that sort of thing where it's just, I don't believe in that. Well, all right. Well, this was the real true, though. You don't know why. And it shouldn't happen if it is. But I like to look at it from a realistic lens. So, they should be treated with respect, care, compassion, kindness, how they want to be treated. To be true. If they didn't want to be treated with compassion, then not in a certain context. But why can't we facilitate that some don't have to fight again? For some, it's a big one. But I see why some go to warfare. Concept of war, and other kinds, and it's something that when you see like you're getting attacked and that peace is all happening, because I've been in those situations where it feels like myself and others from Instagram are getting attacked and the rest of Earth is all hunky-dory, damn well decent, better be at least one time, for freak's sake. And I don't like it. Who does? Is that 5 minutes? All right, then fine. And I have been there where it is that sort of thing where everything's decent. And I don't know what's going on with others. For some of it, that's the decent of it, and not so. But I think that some have been led to believe that it's more than something else in regards to my physical life, as who I am, and as Alex James Hislop. It's being led to be something else. All right, okay, correct. So I just see why some go to war and say, listen, this is the case, we need to have a battle here and finish this, because one of the big ones is that sort of thing that says, a war that emerges, billions of years ago, and this dragging it out for some of them is, it's a bit, because you got dimensional existences for some of it that have already fought those battles and warfare. And the big thing here is that sort of thing that says, rewards, situating, outcome, that sort of thing was the first thing I was supposed to say. Okay, yeah. And, if that thing's being held up, then that is one of those things where it's like, how much more to go? How much more longer? So it's a big one. I can see why people go there at times instead of peace, because I've seen that sort of thing take place where I've been getting attacked and I can't take it anymore. And there was one night 3-4 weeks ago where I was trying to get to sleep, and certain kind of spirits woke me up, and I had enough, and I prompted aggressive defense in the ways and means where guides indicated I had enough. And it felt like Well, it did. There was a certain kind of amount of doneness on me, which felt like that was it. I'd had enough, and there's moments like that. There was one that for others, like a couple nights ago, I think to a certain degree, for some, where a certain kind were like, I'm getting attacked here. And then that was the thing, but I didn't know there's no second one there. Well, that might be the better way of it, though. You never know. And there's things like that where conflict emerges within my process, and I don't know the full ins and outs of it. I don't know the full history of it. And I should for some of it. Because the historians, they don't, you're a lazy historian, Alex. You know it. I don't think so. I don't think I'm a lazy historian. I disagree with that. In my life as Alex James says of February 44? No, I don't think so. It's not lazy. I'm sloppy. All right, okay, correct. But my memory has lent towards it. Incoherency. There is some incoherency in regards to some of the writings I do. It's not necessarily what you think it is, where it's going to be a parchment scroll with all the events that happened. It's let knows that are happening within my process. Some were trying to label it this, thing, but other dimensionally, that might be a different story. And it might not necessarily be my histories per se in the ways that Main Spirit Guides indicated. That's one of those subjects you don't screw with. Yeah, that is. Cooks is another one, actually, interestingly enough. Cooks, kitchen staff, nurses. those are groups that you don't want to screw with. That's how I feel about it. Well, that would be correct. This is what you did. I and other Swins Guides are advocating for clarifications that Range Guides need to be displayed. Where Range Guides need, the Range Guides need. There's a bunch of other ones too. Media. There's comedians. That's another of those too. Media and comedians. No. The real answer here, though, is that you don't want to mess with any of them, because that's the real true. All right, then fine. You don't think those ones that people think that they can mess with? You don't think there's a trap in the mix? For Christ's sake. Please. All right, fine. Well, that was it. That was the case of it. There is ones that are set up in a certain fashion where there's not supposed to be. I believe that to be the truth. All right, then fine. Because that's what we're saying here. All right, other Swins Guides are hoping for what Main Spirit Guide shows for us to hope in regards to smart application, etc. Yeah. So let's see if I can just run down this fairly quickly here. Those that Main Spirit Guides needed. So I'm going to run down to my advocations here. Those that Main Spirit Guides needed that facilitated the interaction that Main Spirit Guides needed. AJH Daily, so it's 31 advocations there. Defensive power moves that Main Spirit Guides needed. It was 31 advocations. Yeah, this is those that did not benefit in regards to the direction that my process and others my main cap took pertain to what Main Spirit Guides needed. It's another 31 advocations. So, and you'd see it change here drastically. I start doing a lot more advocations because I ended up stumbling upon something. Situating those that are aggressive being removed from the areas that Main Spirit Guides indicated with clear intention indicators as to who are the good spirit and who are doing so in a different fashion. Also, Slovenians, Divine Main Spirit Guides in the light, the Main Spirit Guides in the light. A part of it is my authorities that Main Spirit Guides need. Yeah, create a name for the authorities that Main Spirit Guides need myself. Separate from Slovenia? No, I like it not separate from Slovenia. Not necessarily. Some of it might be. I think it's just creating a certain kind of name in regards to authorities that Main Spirit Guides needed in regards to myself. I didn't know if I wanted to go a different way with it, but again, creating certain kind of names in regards to authorities in regards to oneself, that's decent. But those who don't know about some of this stuff, they shouldn't have to worry about this sort of thing. Again, I created multiple kinds of safety informational placements, informational documents located online in regards to spiritual safeguards pertaining to my document creation, and other kinds that Main Spirit Guides. And there's multiple different wordings within the disclaimers and advocations and testifications themselves. There really is. Halloween. How about a little bit of an update on this? I mean, we talked about a little bit of reviews. We talked a little bit of there's reviews, mediation, diplomacy this day. I know the Swins Guides are advocating for what Main Spirit Guides indicated regarding Main Spirit Guides. I walked into town, so there is that sort of thing where there's that natural if you move in the physical and walk or travel or that sort of thing, there is those sort of updates. Sort of update that happens. Especially if you don't go out often, there is that sort of thing that takes place where there's some updates. But in a process like mine, there can be some heavies. and there was some heavy updates at times. Earth was one of them, I believe. I know there's what means for guides are advocating for what means for guides shows for us to advocate in regards to smart application etc. What means for guides pertain to Earth, and others found what means for guides pertaining to November 7th, 2019. What means for guides needed. So, Halloween, what exactly took place? Well, there was some stuff. That's what they said. You don't know what it looks like because that's what's going to happen here. That's what you said. If that took place, and this is why. Is it only in regards to your own? Sadly, there is certain things like that. There's a sadly. Yeah, there is. But you don't know why. Might do what means you guys need regarding this market application catch if need be the way you guys need it. All right, then fine. Yeah, there was some stuff that happened. That's just it. That's what we said. It's one of those things where I noticed 6-7 days afterwards that there was this thing in regards to it. That sort of thing says stay away from certain. Well, no, it just there was this thing where I kind of felt like there was a certain kind certain could be's in regards to it, and there was certain mentioning of it multiple times in a certain fashion. A threat. Well, some of it might have been subtle threat fashion. I don't know. So I didn't know. I asked it a couple days ago to sort of see what's up on that. And I did do advocations in regards to Halloween. I did do multiple advocations, verbals, throughout the past 2 months in regards to Halloween 2019. And a lot of that there's a large portion that is in regards to certain resources, protection, defense, safety. That means for guys needed. Potentially pertaining to, well, anyway, it's fully the advocations that Main Spirit Guides negate in regards to Halloween 2019 from myself, Alex James, and others from Main Spirit Guides is fully defined by Main Spirit Guides the way Main Spirit Guides negated. Okay, fine. I know there's some Main Spirit Guides are advocating for what Main Spirit Guides shows for us to advocate in regards to Halloween 2019, October 31st, 2019, the way Main Spirit Guides needed. And others from Main Spirit Guides if need be. Okay, so yeah. And this is where I started doing different strengths of, well, different amount of advocations. This is the 1st of November, 2019. Defense teams that Main Spirit Guides negated in regards to Peacekeeper Alex Trello account and others from Main Spirit Guides advocations. AJH Daily Defensives Board 388. Because that's what they said. Defense teams that Main Spirit Guides negated in regards to the Peacekeeper Alex Trello account and others from Main Spirit Guides testifications 388. So there's I started doing like hundreds of advocations, and which is not a bad thing at all, because one of the biggest things that we sort of looked at this past 2-3 months at times was a heavy emphasis in regards to that my informational placement isn't to blame in the ways that Main Spirit Guides indicate in the light that I'm in my right to create the information that I've been creating, like doing certain kind of advocations, like advocating for truth to be protected, like advocating for nations to be defended, Earth-based, in the ways that Main Spirit Guides indicated. It's worded decent. I don't think that they're problematic. Light display my defense and the defense of others that Main Spirit Guides negated in regards to the advocations that Main Spirit Guides negated, etc. Defined by Main Spirit Guides, what Main Spirit Guides negated. Well, okay. AJH Daily Defensives Board. Original Light, I think. Oh yeah, Main Spirit Guides in the original light are in charge of my Main Spirit Guides chain of command in the ways that Main Spirit Guides indicated in the original light. Myself, that being Alex James Hislop, as well as the authors that Main Spirit Guides indicated in regards to the AJH Daily Defensives Board and the Peacekeeper Alex Trello accounts. The informational safeties that Main Spirit Guides needed, and let knows that the informational safeties that Main Spirit Guides needed have been employed in the ways that Main Spirit Guides negated. The light and the setting that Main Spirit Guides negated, the way Main Spirit Guides negated. We that Main Spirit Guides needed consider the light to be the light that for Main Spirit Guides indicated in the original light, the way Main Spirit Guides indicated in the original light. 500 advocations of those, 500 plus actually, to be true. Also, Trello information that Main Spirit Guides need to be placed where Main Spirit Guides needed daily in regards to Peacekeeper Alex Trello account, Google, Microsoft, and Notepad++ as well. 400 plus advocations. Retirement plans that Main Spirit Guides needed in regards to the Peacekeeper Alex Trello account and others from Main Spirit Guides, especially pertaining to the technological updates that Main Spirit Guides needed. The template teams, that means for guys needed. Maintenance teams, that means for guys needed. Technology, that means for guys needed. Technologists, that means for guys needed. Old school informational placement and other kinds, that means guys needed 200 plus applications apiece. And that took about, it would take me about what, half hour, an hour to create that many applications. So it's a big step upwards. It's not just, going through it, 31 applications takes like, 20 minutes, that sort of thing. It's rather, I can place it, across the board. Give and take a few kinks, because there's a few kinks in regards to the to what I'm utilizing. I and others for guides are advocating for what means for guides chose for us to advocate in regards to smart application, etc. To guides pertain to those. That means guys need the way guys need. Another big one that's happening this month for me is going to be upgrading the computer. I'm going to be upgrading the computer this month, next month, something like that. I'm going to come up with more documentation, things of that nature. Yeah, well, that was why. You did not want to be saying this. You didn't know why. Well, it's something that exists to a certain extent. Okay, fine. Well, you don't know why these guys are like this. This is what you said. That's what you said, Alex. Well, okay, you don't know why. That's just it. You don't know why. Why? Because that's what they're trying to do. Anyways, that's some of the advocations. There's hundreds more that I've done. Best possible advocations calculated by the site that means per guys needed, cross-reference with what means per guys needed in regards to these blocking of advocations, and those that means per guys needed. Common spirit that means per guys needed in regards to immoral societies, that means per guys needed. 319 applications. Defense, those that means per guys needed that have been in the ways that means per guys needed pertain to when I speak about defense works and defense conversation, etc. Who means per guys, 319 applications. That was the second. The third I did so time and item safeguarding, 290 advocations. Gods and clarifications, 319 advocations. Hollywood, 319 advocations. Inforia and clarifications, 319 advocations. Family, 388 advocations. And also there's another one, regulars in regards to myself, that means for guys need pertain to content creation shaping, 290 advocations. I and others from for guides are advocating for the best possible advocational placement. That means for guides negated in regards to smart application, etc. Moments guides calculated by the setting that means guides negated cross-reference with what means for guides negated pertaining to those that means for guides indicated in regards to the regulars that means for guides indicated regarding content creation shaping. The way means for guys needed light, do what means guys needed regarding setting that means guys needed do what means guys needed regarding the way means guys needed. I and others to means for guides are advocating for saving in regards to those that means guys needed pertain to the smart application, etc. Guides. The way means for guides indicated. Light facilitate what means for guys negated regarding. And I'm adding for defense in regards to myself because I think that's what was, well, that would be correct. And this is what this is. You don't know why. So that's really it. The regulars that means for guys negated in regards to myself and others. To what means for guides pertain to content creation shaping. Those that means for guys negated in regards to myself and others. To what means for guides pertain to content creation shaping. The newcomers that means for guys negated in regards to myself and others. To what means for guides in regards to content creation shaping. The list that means for guys negated of those that are always supposed to be present pertain to my presence and utilization in regards to content creation shaping. 319 advocations. And again, these are a piece. Like they're like this is the case list. So, like a place 4 advocations in a blocking and times 319. So that's like in total, that's about like 900 applications. So that's that sort of thing that's and it's brilliant. Well, look at this. We looked at it on the 4th and the 5th, and it worked out beautifully, at least on my end. And I don't know, well, at least on my end. Yeah. What exactly, I don't know if anything happened. I think everything was, fairly decent to be true. Was it? That's why. Because that's what they say. They say that's what they said. That's why they've been going this route, Alex. Now you understand. So that would be why. Look, this is the case list. All right. This one, there we go. All right, fine. Holy fuck. Well, that would be correct. This is you prompting defense. Good sir. All righty, then fine. All right, that was why. prompting defense here. This right here. I tried doing it earlier, getting rid of that attack impression. All right, you got angry there. Yeah, but then I tried saving, and that was the true. Okay, correct. That was the case. Informational placement, informational safeties in regards to Alex James. This has been others to my Spirit Guides. Best possible advocations that myself and others to my Spirit Guides could have advocated in regards to November 4th, 2019, as well as understanding what is taking place in regards to what Spirit Guides indicated, 320 advocations. A piece, yeah, so it was like 640 in total, but there's probably an extra one too, so that's probably about 900 and some odd. Okay, fine. Like the list, the totals that I'm giving you, it's going to be more than what it reflects to a certain degree if some are counting it in a certain fashion. On the 5th, I did those that means for guys negated that are supposed to be in my process. Those that means for guys negated in regards to my process. 319 advocations. Trello, 400 advocations. Healing compensation in regards to healers. That means for guys needed medical supplies. In regards to medics, that means for guys needed 400 advocations. Healers, that means for guys needed. Defenders, that means for guys needed. And protection, 388 advocations. Ripple effect in regards to my process. Ripple effect in regards to earth-based processes. That means for guys needed. Ripple effect in regards to processes. That means for guys needed. 388 advocations into those fighting pertaining to the freedom of earth-based physicals, 388 advocations. Advocating for what means Spirit Guides indicate in regards to this advocation pertaining to the subject line in regards to the way it means main cap indicated in the way it means Spirit Guides indicated safeguarding villains' power within content experiences. That means Spirit Guides needed, especially the ones that mixed in with real life in the ways it means Spirit Guides needed. Clarifications in regards to cards, lists, and boards. That means Spirit Guides indicated community service programs. That means Spirit Guides needed those systems. That means Spirit Guides needed in regards to interaction, especially upon being able to utilize them. 388 advocations. Best possible advocations that mine and others from Spirit Guides could have advocated. Healing board, 502 advocations. Yeah, some of this was on the healing board earlier on, so I didn't say it. A lot of it's on the AJH Daily Defensives board, but there is the healing board that I sort of souped up a bit and started putting, here are best possible actions that myself and others at Divine Marine Spirit Guides could have advocated. Healing board, 502 advocations. Story infrastructure and story teams, AJH Daily Defensives board, 300 advocations. So that was the 5th. And this is the thing, I think what needs to be understood here is the kind of jazz that the spirit are utilizing in a certain fashion, because when you take a look at what I'm doing, it's like, okay, yeah, there's advocations, physical, it does matter, physical or earth-based, it is a decent, but you start to take a look at other things and it's complete, like mine is chicken scratch compared, and some of you can't even say it's chicken scratch, it's Jesus. What mine looks like chicken scratch in regards to at times, that looks like chicken scratch in regards to some of it. Oh, okay, correct. That is correct, and that was the true. This is the reason why. That's what we all said. Oh boy. Okay, that is correct. You don't know why. We went that way on it for a reason. The 6th happened, and it was just this thing in the morning where a bunch of things happened, and there was a struggle in regards to what I'm going to do that day. And I just said, you know what? I don't feel like doing anything. There was just some things that happened in the early morning. There was something about my perception. I noticed a certain kind of female get moved. I noticed female and male, my perception regarding, and I saw a female get moved right in front of my eyes. Look, as I was discerning my perception, female got moved, and male was kind of left there, kind of looking around like, what's going on? And it looked like something happened, but maybe the eye needs to be on masculine too, in the ways that mean Spirit Guides indicated. What happened there? I think he was brought up as well too. All right, okay, correct. They got moved upwards. So said. It looked like there was a block in regards to what I could discern in regards to where female and male, my perception regarding, or at least a certain perception regarding, might not have been my perception. Might have been perception of something else that I was discerning, but that is not supposed to be fully happening for what's acceptable, correct? I know it is one of those things that moves and shakes, but it does matter. So yeah, I think that there was something situated there. I don't fully know what though. Light, do what means you guys needed regarding this market application extension, what means you guys regarding, what means you guys needed. The 7th, I did retrofitter today, retrofitters, outfitters, energy teams, transportations, 331 applications. I'm going to probably be doing more to a certain degree. Yeah. Today, eyes, something to do with eyes today, just ears as well, potentially, senses, maybe to a certain extent. Walking, Tim's, writing, wrote a lot, updates, clarifications, transportations, hope, impressions, mediation, situations, diplomacy. Yeah, a lot of different things like that today. Um, breathing intensified earlier, went like a higher up into like a breathing infrastructure where I went, they kind of moved me in a certain kind of fashion. I don't know if that other infrastructure that got moved off of was getting attacked or what it was. What is the quality of life regarding them? Matters greatly. You let my spirit guides probably already know in the light, but you know, yeah. I went to Tim's. It felt safe. It was like I went into town and there was just a certain kind around me. It was really decent. I'm advocating for what main spirit guides needed regarding those groups and spirit that main spirit guides needed, the women guides need. But you don't know why, because there's some people left out though. I and other women's guides are advocating for what main spirit guides needed in regards to those spirit that main guides needed. In regards to smart getting etc. Women's guides needed. I did discern multiple energies at Tim's. There was a moment where there's like a lot of gods around me, and I felt like I was like, okay, I'm going to show the. Yeah, I felt like just scrolling down the Earth Gods disclaimer that I created just to, maybe that could help, because I kind of felt that way. Well, there was a let know regarding that might be the better route. So I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I go with it. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, there was understanding regarding taste. It was just one of those things where I noticed, I ate a date. It was really super sweet. And then Majul date. So then I tried it again. Of course, I looked at my fan to make sure there's a monkey around. He's like, I don't know if you ever watch Indiana Jones, and I tasted the outside of the date. It tasted like the ocean. It really did. But then I sucked on it for like another minute or two, and then I bit into it, and it tasted like less sweet to a certain extent. So I started getting understanding that you could actually, the way you eat can change what you taste. And I know there's a bunch of people out there like, of course it does. What the frig? But it's one of those things that, like, what else can we do? Can we suck on a banana peel? Like, what exactly does that taste when we try the banana? Because there's multiple different things like that I hadn't noticed. If you suck on the pit of an avocado for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, what exactly is taking place? And one of the things I noticed in regards to sucking on the date of a pit was this sort of it was interesting flavor. And I think there was a taste change in regards to when I bit into the date a third time. But one of the things I noticed was a certain kind of energy. Something was taken from the pit of the date, supposedly. And it strengthened me. It kind of felt like a certain kind of mahogany vitamin was, I don't know what kind of vitamin it was, but it felt like a certain kind of vitamin that my body got. And I was like, it feels better, but it feels like they maneuvered and did something to because I've noticed like there is spiritual attachment there is other selves in regards to fruit itself. For some of it, there's confirmation there from the spirit. So yeah, it's one of those things that's so strange. I don't know, it was amazing. I wrote it down. I said like different kind of taste experiences. It was good. It was good. Last couple of days, certain kind of spirit guides indicated that I'm understanding that in my mind. Yeah, there was a bit of an emphasis in regards to my mind and understanding what I'm going through without having to speak with my loud voice and that sort of thing. And it felt like that spirit understood in a certain manner. I don't know how much of that's true. I think that a decent sized portion is. That's what my discernment is. Okay, correct. I and others from Inspire Guides are advocating for resources in regards to the channel, and others from Inspire Guides needed. I believe that I did channeling, I'm fairly certain. I've done multiple applications in regards to channeling. Yeah, another story moment, intense story moment was on the 5th. Or was it on the 4th? Might have been on the 4th. Yeah, you don't know why, because they were all just making fun of you. That was the case of it. You don't know why. That's how Alex felt about it. I don't know if they were. Well, okay. They might have been. A certain spirit were, of course. Some were. God. Of course they were somewhere, but I really feel like there was some story stuff taking place where I looked at a certain kind of story within, for the past 6 months, I'd been looking at the wood panels on my roof, not roof, ceiling in my room, and I noticed that there was multiple shapes, in shapes of different animals. There'd be the bear, there's the snake, there was the spider, the sloth, there's the fox, there was also other kinds too, all in these strange shapes, and I'd sort of look towards them, and it looks uncanny. Like if I ever upload a video, I got to mark it down to put the snapshots in the comment section, because people would look at it and be like, yeah, that looks like a fox, that looks like a bear, it looks almost exactly like some of the animal depictions. But I never really looked at it to see if there was story. Like I did look at it in a certain sense, but there was moments where I didn't necessarily look for the storyline that was existing. I started noticing other shapes about 3, 4, 5 days previous. So this early, first week of November, last week of October, and I started noticing a certain kind of storyline within these wood markings on my ceiling. But I noticed the energies in regards to the spirit as well too, and certain visions and flashes while I'm experiencing this sort of stuff. And it really is one of those things where you don't know why you wanted to say that, because these guys are done. That's what they wanted to say here. That's all. It's not crap, because that was what you proved, and this is the case. That's what they say. It's already been proven. Jeebus. Fighting for resources and support in regards to Jeebus. That means for guys need the way shows needed. All right, fine. Right, others from its guides are advocating for the best possible advocations that myself and others from its guides could have done in regards to Jeebus. The way means for guys needed. Jeebus Cripes. That means for guys needed the way shows needed. Okay, fine. I and others from Women's Spur Guides are advocating for the best possible advocations that myself and others from Women's Spur Guides could have done in regards to smart advocation sections of Women's Spur Guides pertaining to the villains that Women's Spur Guides needed, especially the devil, the way Women's Spur Guides needed. Good. And Jeebus Cripes is good. That was what you did. That was why. Sort of how we feel. Well, okay. I'm going to be creating more advocations here today, probably. There's probably going to be 200 plus each for there's going to be demons, there's going to be intimacy, diplomacy, mediation updates, locals, and there's going to be a couple other ones too. I think that's it for now. I know there's Women's Spur Guides are advocating for what Women's Spur Guides chose for us to advocate in regards to smart advocation, etc. Women's Spur Guides pertaining to the AJH Daily Defensives Content, November 7th, 2019, the way Women's Spur Guides need.